Okay, guys, let's talk about the Nuggets, and if anybody has a chance of beating them, let's acknowledge, yes, my last video was Kyrie Irving buzzer beater versus the Nuggets, but we're specifically talking about the playoffs here. I think we would all have the Nuggets as the team we're most confident in to execute in the clutch, just the Jokic-Murray two-man game, on top of just what it creates for MPJ, Gordon, KCP, the way that they all flow off of Jokic and Murray with handoff actions and Gordon cuts and being in the dunker spot and the whole thing. And then defensively, I mean, the Nuggets, they're 10th in defensive rating this year, where Jokic is typically, at the level of the screen on pick and rolls, rotations on the back end. Sometimes he's more in drop. I mean, that was a huge thing for them last year, just how they progressed month after month defensively. They were really good in the playoffs. Then we've had Christian Brown and Peyton Watson with a little more minutes because no Bruce Brown, the whole thing. Okay, anyway, now this is mostly going to be about the West, but to talk about their matchup against the Celtics. I mean, I did this in the Celtics video already, but I'll just repeat it again. Like what the Nuggets did defensively, or what they've done defensively against the Celtics this season with like having Jokic guard Drew sometimes, and Drew, he ended up making like a crazy three over Jokic in one of those games, but it allows him to like switch with MPJ because he goes on Porzingis, so they can switch like some of the Porzingis screen actions, and then they've had some success with like putting two to the ball on Tatum sometimes. So similar to when I did this for the Celtics video like a couple weeks back, I looked at some of the Nuggets games against the best teams in the league this season, and I specifically wanted to look at the games where it was close or they lost or whatever. So we'll look at their games against OKC. The Thunder are 3-1 versus the Nuggets this year. Granted, one of those was an SGA buzzer beater that could have gone the other way. One of those Jokic did not play, and the first time they played, Chet looked like he was not prepared to deal with Jokic whatsoever. But still, they blew out a healthy Nuggets team once, and they also, again, they had the SGA buzzer beater game. Okay, so in the blowout game, Jokic still had his normal points and everything. They did get 7 turnovers out of Jokic, and I mean, we know what OKC's defense is, right? Like, it's Chet protecting in the middle, and then after that, it's OKC trying to get blocks, trying to get deflections, trying to get steals off of helping out of the corners and getting into passing lanes and all that. It results in them giving up the most corner threes in the league, but they're also first in opponent forced turnovers, the whole thing. And so you've got a play where, Chet is guarding Jokic in the post, and then you've got Giddey and J-Dub helping in the paint with Jamal Murray open in the corner. And then Jokic makes the read like he always does, except Lou Dort pulls off this crazy jump steal in order to get it, and then we're going the other way. You had J-Dub and Lou Dort just being really big and kind of blocking Murray on some stuff. You had Kaysen also just fighting like crazy on all Murray actions, kind of hounding him. And I mean, an OKC Nuggets playoff matchup really does fascinate me because it's like Jokic is a genius at making all the reads and predicting what your defense is going to do and making the split-second decision, whether it's the skip pass or the lob to Aaron Gordon or whatever. And OKC is really good at bringing extra attention and not getting torched on that type of defense. And then as far as the other side, the Nuggets very good defensively, but also OKC can stretch you out so much that it's a little more difficult to make all the rotations and stuff against them. I still think Denver could do it, but also it'd be a challenge. Now, in the other game where it was the SGA buzzer beater, I mean, the Nuggets had like a 7 or 8 point lead with 5 minutes left to go in that game. And OKC kept on going back and forth between, okay, Chet is guarding Jokic, he's the only big in the game, versus we're going to bring in big Jalen Williams, not J-Dub, and he's going to guard Jokic, and then Chet's going to help off of Gordon. They kept going back and forth late in that one. But you had plays where basically almost the entire OKC defense is in the paint, with Christian Brown being left wide open, and then Lou Dort managing to pull off a crazy closeout onto Jamal Murray, where Jokic makes the read, but Dort was fast enough to close out to him. And the initial play was a Gordon-Jokic pick and roll up top. And then they did some stuff where Chet would basically double team Jamal Murray on the Jokic pick and rolls, which is very scary if you cannot get this right, but because Chet is so huge, he was able to kind of not allow Murray to make the easy pass, and then it results in Jokic having to take a tough three as opposed to doing whatever he wants in the middle of the floor. Again, it's the type of defense where it's could that really work against the Nuggets game after game in a playoff series? I would bet on Denver to beat the Thunder, but also could OKC really bother the Nuggets in a way that a lot of teams would just get destroyed trying, Anyway, now let's go to the Wolves. So the Wolves did just play the Nuggets, but it was without Gobert and without Cat. I mean, we all know Cat's out, and Gobert missed that one with the rib thing. And I mean, the Wolves still played them tough, so give them credit, but I more so want to put stock in the game that they had way back in November now, where the Wolves actually were able to really bother the Nuggets on offense. It was mostly through Gobert guarding Aaron Gordon, and then Cat guarding Jokic. I mean, Jokic still did his thing. He got his points and all that, but it was pretty much everybody else in the Nuggets had problems because it was Murray couldn't really run a pick and roll with Gordon because he had Gobert waiting for him, and he also had Jaden McDaniels doing a really good job fighting around the screens. Gordon wasn't able to go at Gobert one-on-one, and then you also had Ant pressuring MPJ really well. Hopefully Gobert plays in the next one. They play again on March 29th. But with all that said, the Wolves, they don't have Cat right now, and I mean, obviously they're going to need him to be healthy for the playoffs. There you go. Even if their defense will still be really good and Ant is still going to do his thing. And then on April 4th, the Nuggets play the Clippers, and I mean, the Nuggets, they did lose to the Clippers way back. Like, this was like 10 games into the season. This was before the Clippers went on their crazy win streak. The Clippers have been just weird lately. I might have to do a whole video on this. They're like 7-8 in their last 15 games. Their transition defense is bad. I was watching their game against the Hawks, and in the second quarter, the urgency on offense was like kind of blah. You had the Hawks putting 2 to the ball on like James Harden to where the play would just kind of die. You had like maybe Kawhi misses a pull-up too, and then it's Bogey on the other end getting an easy score. Or it's like Jalen Johnson stealing the ball on a Harden pick and roll because he's basically ignoring PJ Tucker, and then Jalen Johnson brings it up himself and scores. Or like PG misses a 3, and then it's a Wesley Matthews easy 3 on the other end. All of those things happened. It's possible that I got the order of them screwed up. It's like when your half-court offense, and to be clear, like the Clippers have had some guys in and out of games and some of these things, I get it. But like if your half-court offense is just like kind of slow, and then also your transition defense is not where it needs to be, it's like, what's going on here, man? Just for reference here, this is NBA.com. They say that the Clippers are in the 0 percentile of transition defense, giving up 1.21 points of possession, and the Celtics and Thunder are number 1 and 2, giving up like 1.05 between them. Now, I get it. The Clippers went on that crazy run, but the way that they've looked recently, I cannot confidently just be like, hey, yeah, how do they look against Denver? Like, how do you look against everybody else real quick? And then there's the rest of the West where, look, I mean, the Pelicans have looked better lately. Zion looking as athletic as he has in a while. Herb Jones, the improvements to 3, his driving kick game, he's going to be an all-defense guy. CJ and Ingram doing their thing. Trey Murphy and Nance playing a little more. And the Pelicans' defense where they give up a lot of three-point attempts, but they do a good job at not getting killed on those. They give up the second most threes per game in the league, but they're number 1 in a good way in opponent three-point percentages, and they're not giving up, like, you know what I'm trying to say. Now, if they end up playing the Nuggets, who am I going to pick? You know who I'm going to pick in that series. If we think about the Suns, where they did have a good defensive game against the Nuggets recently, and Grayson Allen was playing like really good one-on-one defense against Jamal Murray in that overtime. Look, the lineup numbers say a healthy Suns team is still a hell of a team, but I got to pick Denver over. I mean, Luka and Kyrie are going to make anybody sweat if they see them in a playoff matchup. But still, you know, pick's going to be Denver. It's the same thing, Lakers, Warriors, Kings, you get it. Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much everybody's got Nuggets, Celtics as their finals pick, and I do too. I mean, obviously I'm still very excited to watch all the playoff games, but if you force me to pick 2 teams, those are the 2 teams. I don't think that's too crazy. And if I could just be a Celtics fan at the very end here. It is kind of a weird thing where your team is, I mean, they've been great all year. There's no other way around it, right? And even with that said, it's like Jokic is probably the guy that you're going to have to go through at the very end of this whole thing, and it's just like this feeling that you can't put into words, and yeah,